Okay, let's unpack this. We are diving into a concept that sits at the center of, I think, many people's long-term aspirations: financial freedom.
It really is.
And what became immediately clear when we were looking at our sources is that this kind of liberty, it isn't a gift you just receive, it's something you have to intentionally construct.
Right. Piece by discipline piece.
Mm.
And to guide us through this, we found this incredible, surprisingly potent metaphor from the source material. It's called the hourglass fable.
So our mission today is to really distill the method behind it all. It's about recognizing that financial success isn't really about luck. It's built with rigor, with patience.
It's methodical.
Mm.
And it all starts with this foundational idea, which, Brian Tracy articulated so well. He said, financial freedom is the result of deliberate planning and financial discipline.
Deliberate planning. That's the key phrase right there, isn't it?
It is. We have to move beyond just, wishing for freedom and actually start applying a strategy.
So let's jump straight into the fable setting. Imagine a fictional world, this country, where every single person gets an hourglass at birth.
Huh.
But it's no ordinary timer. It's filled with these valuable grains that are basically currency.
They're literally the means of survival. You exchange them for food, for shelter, everything.
Now, here's the catch. For those grains to actually fall, the person has to keep moving. Specifically, they have to keep shaking that hourglass.
And this defines the first category people in the story. The vast majority, in fact.
And the source calls this action of working this, direct exchange of your time for money. It just calls it shaking the hourglass.
Exactly. And if these people stop shaking the glass, maybe for a quick vacation or if they get sick,
The grains stop falling.
the grains stop, no grains, no survival. So this group is completely locked into a pure, linear time for money trade. Their survival is 100% job dependent.
I think everyone listening can probably relate to that feeling, that sense of being locked in motion just to kind of maintain the status quo.
Absolutely. And what really stands out in the source's description of this group is the psychological toll it takes.
The constant friction.
It is. The source notes that this group is so perpetually busy, in this constant effort for immediate survival, that they just don't have the bandwidth. They don't have the time to stop and ask why.
Or if there's a better way.
Or if there's a better way, they're just exhausted by the effort required to stay even.
It's necessary motion, but it's motion without any real long-term direction. It's a really powerful image of being trapped by the clock.
And that desperation to just keep shaking prevents them from seeing the world around them, specifically the second group of people in this economy.
Right, and this is where it gets really interesting, because the fable introduces these people who exist in the same place but are playing by totally different economic rules.
Completely different.
They do not need to shake their hourglass. They are the field owners.
And this is the critical conceptual shift. We move from that grueling linear model where your output is directly tied to your effort to the whole concept of passive revenue.
So if shaking the hourglass is the manual labor of selling your time,
Then owning an asset is owning a field.
Yeah.
Precisely.
Mm-hmm.
Their source of wealth isn't tied to the manual effort of shaking their little hourglass.
no.
It's tied to the food, the grains that are continuously growing in those fields. They harvest it, provide food to others, and get grains in return. It creates this independent, self-sustaining flow.
That makes the concept so visceral, doesn't it? It's the difference between desperately shaking your personal sand timer and just watching the crops grow on your land, regardless of what you're doing at that exact second.
And that really synthesizes the key definition of financial independence for you, for anyone listening. The goal state is receiving that passive income, the harvest that covers your costs of living.
And frees your time from the shake.
Exactly.
But the reality is most of us aren't born owning the fields, which is why the third category in the fable is, I think, the most relevant one. It provides the actionable path for anyone who is currently shaking their hourglass but dreams of owning land.
This is the discipline path. This is the construction process. These people are still tired. They are still shaking their hourglass just to survive. But they decide to dedicate a piece of their already limited energy and resources toward future growth.
That sounds great, but the source makes a point of saying these people are tired. So how does the fable address that friction? I mean, how do they find the surplus energy, the surplus grains to plant when they're already exhausted from just surviving?
That is the essential conflict. And it just underscores why discipline is so necessary. They're making a conscious choice to sacrifice immediate comfort.
Fewer meals, maybe? Or delaying a purchase?
Exactly. They take that surplus, remove it from immediate consumption, and deploy it for a future benefit.
Okay, so let's define that action in, modern financial terms. What is planting their grains each day?
The source is really clear here. It defines it as saving and investing regularly. It's the ritual, the consistent deployment of capital, no matter how small. If you're saving, you're setting grains aside. If you're investing,
You're planting them in the field.
you're planting them in the field.
And the field is where the real magic happens, but it's not instant.
Not at all. The source really emphasizes this. At first, it says nothing happens. You put in the work, you sacrifice, and the results are almost invisible.
And that's where people give up.
That's the failure point for so many, because the effort doesn't seem worth a non-existent result.
That initial patience is all real test of faith. If we connect this to the bigger picture of investing, what's the mechanism that eventually makes it all worthwhile?
Well, we have to acknowledge the hidden force here: compound interest. If planting grains is investing, then compound interest is like the miracle fertilizer. It's what separates simple saving from true wealth building.
So at first, your shoots are small.
They're tiny. But as they grow, the harvest they produce, that passive income, gets reinvested right back into the field. This lets your field grow exponentially faster than if you were just adding grains by hand.
It's the moment when your crop starts planting its own crops.
Precisely. You're leveraging time and math, not just your own manual effort. And the patience pays off, because if they stick with it, if they stay disciplined, their rewards start to appear. First, a tiny shoot, then a small harvest, then a second. The field begins to produce, compounding all that effort they put in so long ago.
And what is the ultimate payoff for all this slow, patient, disciplined labor?
It's the ultimate reward.
Yeah.
Choice. One day they realize they are no longer obliged to shake the hourglass just to eat.
Yeah.
They still can choose to work, but it's not essential for their survival anymore.
They've bought back their freedom one grain at a time.
That's exactly how the source puts it.
It's a powerful story, moving from survival to self-determination through rigor. But we have to transition from the fable simplicity to the strategic mindset you need in the real world. The joy of freedom has to be tempered by the rigor of strategy. Which brings us to that great Charlie Munger quote: "Take the ideas where they are, but use your own brain to assemble them." This is so crucial for real-world financial markets.
It is essential. While the fable provides this amazing inspiration and a clear philosophical roadmap, we have to pivot to the necessary critical thinking and, frankly, deep caution when it comes to real-world financial decisions. Investing is not without risk.
And you have to treat risk management as seriously as the planting itself.
You do. The source material had some important disclaimers. We need to actually talk through those, not just read them, because they are crucial strategic guideposts. What's the foundational warning we should start with?
The primary message is transparency. This deep dive, just like the source material, is purely educational and informative. It's for inspiration.
Yes, it is emphatically not personalized investment advice, nor is it a guarantee of specific results. The force is clear that market evolution can vary dramatically depending on when you start, and your results will reflect that real-world uncertainty.
So if the field is the investment portfolio, what's the mandatory homework you have to do before you even pick up the metaphorical shovel?
You have to engage in deep self-reflection and, of course, research. You have to ask the right questions and base your decisions consciously on your own unique profile. The source specifies 3 personal factors that have to guide your choices.
Let's start with objectives. If I'm planting grains, what are my financial objectives?
Your objective is the desired size and timing of your harvest. Are you saving for a short-term goal, like a down payment on a house, or a long-term one, like retirement in 30 years?
And that dictates the type of field you plant.
Completely. If you need the grain soon, you plant stable, low-yield crops. If you've got decades, you can afford to plant higher-risk, potentially higher-reward crops.
Which connects directly to the second factor, time horizon. We hear that term a lot. When we're talking about planting grains, what does a short or long time horizon practically mean?
Your time horizon is simply the amount of time you can leave those seeds in the ground before you need the harvest. A longer time horizon, 30 years let's say, means you can weather the inevitable market storms.
So if there's a bad season, you don't have to sell at a loss.
Exactly. A shorter horizon means that volatility, that up and down, poses a much greater risk to your principal. You have to choose fields that are appropriate for your harvesting date.
And finally, risk management profile. It sounds like legal jargon, but what does it mean for managing my crops?
It's all about protecting the field. Your risk management profile is your willingness and your capacity to accept potential losses in exchange for potential gains.
Like, do you diversify your field?
That's a huge part of it.
Yeah.
Do you only plant corn, or do you also plant wheat and soybeans? Diversification is just owning different types of fields so that if one crop performs poorly, others might offset that loss.
So generic advice won't work because my objectives, my time horizon, my risk tolerance, they're all unique to me. I have to design my own field.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And in that design process, you have to recognize the inherent risks in the environment itself.
Let's be perfectly clear about the reality of planting grains in a real-world field.
We must be crystal clear. Financial markets are uncertain by nature. Past performance is no guarantee of future results. All investment carries a risk of loss.
There is no guaranteed path to the harvest.
None. That is the reality. Just like a real field can suffer from a drought or pests, financial markets will have downturns. And that uncertainty requires your constant attention and your continuous education.
So if a listener finds themselves just overwhelmed by the complexity of designing this field, what's the most rigorous path forward?
The sources insisted on this. You must continue to strengthen your understanding through education. But, and this is a big but, if you are in doubt before making any significant decision, especially one that commits a lot of your grains,
You have to talk to a professional.
you must consult a certified professional, someone who can provide personalized, qualified advice based on all those variables we just discussed. Because ultimately, the responsibility for the choice and for the resulting harvest remains solely with you, the investor. The path requires rigor in both execution, the daily planting, and in research, the careful study of the soil, the climate, and the seeds.
That balance, the inspirational story coupled with the cold reality of strategic risk-managed planting, is what makes this so valuable. It tells you the goal and the method, but it demands that you provide the discipline and the research.
So the final summary of this deep dive is that the journey to financial liberty is a deliberate construction. It requires a specific method sacrificing today for tomorrow, and it involves daily, disciplined effort. The consistent act of planting those grains even when you can't see the results.
And that brings us right back to the present moment. If working is just shaking the hourglass and financial freedom is owning a self-sustaining field, we'll leave you with one final question to think about. If compound interest is the miracle fertilizer and discipline is the daily act of planting, what small disciplined action can you take today, right now, to ensure you are actively planting a few grains into a productive, diversified field rather than just shaking your way through the week? Because that rigor and that patience, that is what eventually allows you to harvest your own independence.